Hi everyone, it's Mav. This is Mav Magic, a channel where I'm trying to help everyone find their truth and discover their magic. I'm going to share with you some very exciting information that was really helpful for me in my healing journey with asthma. If you're someone who has struggled with asthma before, you're gonna want to stick around and watch this video. Before we get into the topic for today, I'm gonna ask you to subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and give me a like. Leave a comment below if anything in this video resonates with you or you find any of this information helpful. Let me know anything about your story with asthma. First things first, I need to say that I am not a doctor. I am just a person who has had an experience getting better and has found healing for my asthma. But this is not a substitute for any medical advice. So if this is something that you're struggling with, continue your medical treatment and hopefully just use these as a supplement to help support your healing. I just want to start by just talking about how difficult living with asthma can be. A lot of times you just have a general shortness of breath. You can experience a lot of tightness in your chest. You can also have a lot of coughs, which can be really irritating. Another symptom of asthma that a lot of people don't think about, besides the part about breathing, is that it can really cause a lot of fatigue and can make just doing general daily activities very, very challenging. I've had asthma for a lot of my life. I think I had my first real experience with asthma in about middle school. There would be times in my life where it would be pretty bad and I would use an inhaler regularly, but I would also go through periods where I wouldn't use an inhaler for a couple years at a time. So my asthma would kind of vary in severity. And then in about March of 2020, I got really, really sick. This was all happening during a pretty scary time. And COVID had just started getting really serious, and I believe we had started some type of lockdowns at that point, and I had gotten really sick at a bad time, it felt like. I got tested and I was negative, and but I still was pretty much down and out for quite a while, about a month or so. Ever since then, my asthma has gotten so bad, and with the difficulty with my asthma, my energy levels plummeted, and in addition to that, there was just, I think, depression kind of came in with that as well, so that didn't make things any easier. It was a really difficult time in my life. There were some periods with my breathing that I just thought that my life would never be the same again, and obviously that was pretty terrifying. At this time, I think I had been using 2 inhalers. One of them was a steroid inhaler, I believe, and some other oral medications to help with that as well. And I was also doing a lot of nebulizer treatments. I would go to my doctor and tell her about my symptoms, and she really didn't know what to do with me except for kind of increase some of the dosages on the medications that I was on, and I think change some of the kinds of nebulizer treatments. But obviously the symptoms didn't get a lot better. I was also referred to see a pulmonologist at one point. I remember that I had to wait quite a while to actually get to the appointment, so I felt really discouraged about really finding help for my asthma at all. During this time, I was also struggling with anxiety on top of everything else. When you tie in panic with a struggle to breathe, it kind of makes a really difficult it creates a really difficult situation, and it really made the whole thing a lot worse. However, that's not the end of the story. Things got a lot better for me. I had to start looking at things a little bit differently. I had to understand the real root cause of my asthma. When you're trying to understand any type of physical illness, you're talking about some kind of condition or disease, which kind of breaks down to dis-ease in the body. Any kind of these illnesses are going to begin in the spiritual body. So what do I mean by this? So everybody has energy that's flowing through their system. We're actually just all made of energy. And when we experience energy blockages in our system, those are first going to occur in your energetic body. If it remains uncleared, it will eventually manifest as a physical illness or sometimes mental illness in the physical body. So some of these I didn't know at the time, but hindsight is 2020. And I kind of did some research on some of the emotional causes of asthma. So what can some of these energetic blockages look like in the body? Well, the first one is a fear of being rejected. This one I really resonate with because at the time I was coming up to my family as trans, and since they were fundamentalist Christian, it didn't go very well, and so I was dealing with a lot of that rejection heavily at the time when I was dealing with especially like an asthma crisis. Another one is being overly worried or not being able to express your opinions or emotions clearly. So I definitely was dealing with a lot of difficulty with sharing my emotions at the time, and so that one really resonates with me as well. Another one is the absolute pain and agony of being rejected. Yeah, this one hits home for me. The next one is a dread of being alone. At this point, when you're losing so many people in your life, it just comes with a lot of feelings of loneliness that I was dealing with at the time. There could be a lot of other ways these emotional blockages are manifesting for you specifically. They might not look like mine, but it's important to kind of do some reflections. I'll give you some tips on how to clear some of that energy. These are some steps that I took to start clearing my emotional body. A lot of these I wasn't completely aware that I was doing at the time, but it helped me tremendously, along with some of the other mental and physical health problems that I was dealing with at the time. The first one I'm going to talk about is clearing your emotional body. I worked on this by pretty much getting myself back into spiritual alignment. I started meditating a lot more, really focusing on really raising my vibration, keeping that high, bringing in a lot of self-love practices into my day-to-day life. You could also use some other ways to cleanse your energetic body, like using sage or other smudging tools. You can also take spiritual cleansing baths. You can make a cleansing spray. Those things can be really helpful with clearing your energetic body. Another important step for me was really learning how to speak my truth. I was honestly so unsure of being myself because I truly was afraid of not being loved or accepted for being who I was. This often meant that I didn't share my basic opinion or my basic thoughts with other people because I didn't want to be rejected even in the smallest bit, so I didn't share myself to give anyone the chance. I had to practice speaking my mind, even if I knew that other people wouldn't agree with my opinion or even appreciate my opinion. And I knew that this was a response to a subconscious belief that I had, that if you disagree with someone, then they're gonna eventually leave you. But obviously it was not functional belief, so I had to let that go. Another really important one is learning how to breathe properly. So many people these days don't know how to breathe. And honestly, there's so much pressure going on in the general the general anxiety that everyone is dealing with these days is causing a lot of people to breathe from the top of their chest, breathe into their collarbone only. And that over time is not going to be good for you. You really want to start breathing from your belly, breathing deep from your belly. I think that it's really helpful to breathe in 3 different ways in your breath. Breathe into your belly, then breathe outward, kind of pressing your ribs out, those intercostal muscles in between your ribs. And then after that, you want to breathe up into the top of your collarbone. That is one breath. You're doing those 3 motions in one. All 30. It's hard, obviously, to do that while talking about it, but really learning how to breathe properly changed the game for me. I was so used to just these shallow, deep breaths, and learning how to breathe properly was really hard, and it took me a lot of practice. But if you give yourself the time and you dedicate yourself to the practice, you will feel a lot better. One way to get yourself really into doing these practices is by doing specific breathing exercises. I'm gonna give you just a few examples. There's so much information out there on breathing exercises, pranayamas, anything. Breath work is another one. Same difference pretty much. That's not true. They're very different, but explore the world of breathing. Explore the magic of your breath. You will be amazed at what the breath can do for you. And I'm gonna be making a lot more videos about the breath. You're really gonna enjoy, I think, some of the content I have coming up later about that. So the first one I'm gonna talk about is called square breathing. Square breathing is where you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, and then you hold for a count of 4. It looks like this. You breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. And then you would continue that at least 4 times. And then after that, you can multiply that by 8 and then 16. You can go from there. Another really basic one is to work on making your exhalation twice as long as your inhalation. So if you're breathing in for a count of 5, you will exhale for a count of 10. This specific breathing pattern is really helpful to start kind of calming you down. If you're ever feeling really stressed out, practice that for about 5-10 minutes, and you'll really start to notice yourself getting into a more relaxed state. Another breathing exercise that I found really helpful in strengthening my muscles that I needed to be able to take those breaths properly is called the breath of fire. That is where you inhale about halfway, and then you exhale forcefully through your nose. It's a little bit funny looking, and the point is really to suck your belly in and up, get that navel in and up towards the spine, and that is really going to help. Number one, it's very energizing breath. It is a cleansing breath, and I have personally noticed that it has helped strengthen the muscles in my belly, in my diaphragm, that has helped with my breathing overall. So these are just a couple of tips and tricks that I've learned that have been helpful for me. This is my personal experience. I hope that it's helpful for you in some way. If you've tried any of these things and had any kind of success, it'd be super helpful to also have people share their opinions here. Any other things that you could suggest for other folks. I personally have not used a inhaler or nebulizer treatment in it'll be since maybe about 4 months now. And I know I've heard people have, you know, years of success, and I'm really seeing things look up for me. So a lot of these are pretty recent results, and I've just been feeling amazing these days. And I'll be talking obviously more about my spiritual journey and my healing journey and what that's been looking like. But you can also reach out to me on Instagram. I am at Magick. We can connect, we can chit chat. I have lots of interesting things that I'm working on, more content and website that I'll be putting out soon. But that'll be in the works, so stay posted. All right, I love you all. Have a great day.